pleasure to be here. I've had the opportunity to speak with IAMS for the last almost a year in New York, also in Denver, also in Saratoga twice. And so I've learned over and over again that it is such a pleasure to have an audience like you, because we have so many different things in common. And I do believe I have a very fantastic experience and story to share with you that I really hope is going to positively change and inspire your life. My near-death experience was in 1983. I was working full-time in an art gallery. I thought I was doing my passion. I graduated in psychology and art, so therefore having the opportunity to be in Carmel and be in an art gallery, working myself up into being the top director and turning the gallery from a 1,500 square foot location to 5 locations across the country and meeting people all around the world. I thought that this was a huge, fantastic accomplishment. The one thing I didn't realize is that the more that I was making people famous and the more that I was putting my heart and soul into the gallery, I was beginning to lose myself, putting other people first, putting the artwork first, putting the artists first. And of course, my boss was so happy. Work harder, longer hours, produce more, complimenting and encouraging me in this particular direction. So the point is, I went from a passion into making it my identity, working harder and harder, often 10, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Wow.
I started to realize I wasn't happy inside. Was I doing this for me? Or was I doing it for the future? Thinking about, well, if I work harder, I'll be happier. I'll meet more people. I'll help more people. I had an opportunity that was at the end of April. One of my dear friends came in and said, Jessica, you work so hard. Why don't you take a break? I bought a brand new red Firebird, and I'll take you for a ride. I thought about it, and at the end of that particular day, I thought, I do deserve a break. I think I'll do that. So we decided that we would get in the car, drive down to Scenic Drive, which is along the ocean. And I thought, this is going to be really fun. Give myself a break. The last words I remember was, watch this. And he put his foot to the pedal, and I could feel the acceleration. I could feel myself being pushed back into the car. The next thing I remember is that I'm in a very uncomfortable position, and I can't quite tell where I am, but I think I'm in an ambulance. I'm on a gurney. I can't see out of my right eye. I can't feel my jaw or my teeth. My back feels very odd, and then I have no memory at that one. Got to black out. The next memory I have is that there's light above me, and again, I'm flat. I must be in a hospital, and voices are saying, do you know your name? Do you know who you are? Do you know where you live? Do you know what has happened? And I know my name, and I know where I live, but I don't know where I'm at, and I don't know what's happened. But I can feel needles going in on my knees, my arms, my face, and what we were doing, I had multiple cuts and lacerations on my face, my arms, my legs, because I learned after that what happened. The driver crashed into a tree at full speed, accelerating speed. So my side of the car was crashed in, pushed in. His side of the car wasn't nearly as bad. He walked away from the accident with a few bruises. So I learned that the right side of my face had been crushed in. The eye had been pushed into my skull. The jaw had been pulled off. The vertebrae and the discs, they were shattered and flattened and bulging. The bones in my feet had been shattered like glass. I had no feeling below my waist. They would put pins in my toes to figure out did we have feeling. Couldn't feel anything at all. They were thinking that I would never run again, certainly not walk. I'd be physically disfigured the rest of my life. And my face had ballooned out because of the impact and the swelling. So they said it would be a few days before they could do some surgery to put the skull back together again. I remember lying in the hospital bed. I used to run and exercise. I loved running down through Ocean Avenue and around the beach and coming back. I could run 4, 5, 6, 8 miles and just having so much fun. I had loved to swim. that was my passion. So my life looked so different. Being so disfigured, in excruciating pain. I mean, every millisecond was just excruciating. I could barely lift my head off the pillow. I couldn't move except for my arms. And they had a bar across with a handle that hung down, a vertical. So I could reach up and just move my body just a little bit. And I started to think about, what is there to live for? Also, this is the other interesting aspect, because I couldn't come to work, and also, the injuries might be a lasting disfigurement. My boss called me up and said, "You're fired." So here I am, no job, physically disfigured, in excruciating pain, wondering what is there to live for, and I started to pray. God, help me, God. And again, the pain is excruciating. God, please help me. I don't know what to do. And literally, crying. They did the surgery, so they put my jaw back on. My mouth was wired shut to put the jaw back together. And they rebuilt the face by reconstructing. So I have a plate in my forehead, I have a plate that's rebuilt my cheek, and with the eye, they were able to go in and put some of the bones back together again, but the eye had fallen in and down. So, and of course, the nerve damage was severe, so the whole face had fallen. Of course, they never let me see what I looked like. Everything in the hospital room was plastic, because they didn't want me to know just how gross and grotesque that I looked. My mother was very kind as far as coming and visiting, but again, there was a growing hopelessness. And again, I will say, when pain is that excruciating, and you don't have hope in other areas, there's a sense of loss, internal loss. The next thing that I really remember, that really changed my life, that led to my near-death experience, in praying, it was at night, a presence came into the room in the upper right-hand corner. Now, you might call it a presence or like an angel. It wasn't anything you could see, but you could feel it. I know that many people have said that they had a near-death experience, or that individuals who are passing or dying, that they will describe that the presence will come in and fill the room. As it fills the room, the frequency of the room changes. The frequency, it's as you can feel the two different dimensions, dimension of here and the next dimension, and of that love, of that peace, of that absolute joy, and that it's said in telepathy, if you want to let go, it will be okay. With absolute love. And thinking about the future, my pain, what was going to go for my life, and it was so loving, it was just so loving. I could feel that if I said yes, I could slip out of my body and become one with this. And I wouldn't die, but I wouldn't be in my body anymore. So I said yes. And I could feel that last breath, and then instantly I was in the next dimension, a different place. And it was a foreverness. It was dark, but I was now all with one. And it was feeling perfect. Perfect as no good, no bad, no right, no wrong, no up, no down, nothing, no judgment. And in that perfectness, my first thought was, I'm dead! Not dead, but I'm dead! I was like, this is great! Wow! No more pain, no one telling me what to do, no one discounting me, not having to work hard anymore. It was kind of an elation, like, all right, well, I gotta be here. This is gonna, so, but of course, in this eternity, you're there in this open space. My next question is like, well, what's next? What happens next? With that question of what happens next, because I believe in the power of prayer and in asking, not only here, but also in the future, and we all have this ability at any moment in our life and in our choices. With that request, waves of energy, rolling waves of energy. It was as if it was coming from the right to the left. It had a thunderous feel, but you couldn't see anything, but you could feel this rolling of energy, and it would come through me and pass through. But the interesting thing is that as it passed, it didn't leave, it was still. All knowledge, information, love. There was a real sense of understanding about Earth, what Earth was, and that there really was balance with the animals and war and with changes and birth and death. It was much of a great peace and understanding. And I know that a lot of people, I'm sure you've had that too, if you've been in meditation or in contemplation or in some state which you allow yourself to be one with yourself, you can have that sense of that inner bliss. Well, and knowledge, that's what it felt like. And these waves continued to roll through me. And it was just this feeling of love and knowledge and ecstasy and just wonderful. But again, everything was perfect. It was very interesting that I was still very much me. I thought, wow, I'm still me. Still that identity of being Jessica. In a sense, as this information is being shown, given, passing through, the idea of Earth and school, as well as parents, it started to fade away. It's not really being part of me, but I was still very, very much me. I thought, well, that's interesting, because we often are given the idea that when you die, you are a sense of self, but when you go into the next realm or dimension, as a drop of water, you become one with all. And it wasn't that way. Very much, I was me. And I think that's one of the wonderful things that we can have in our life, that we are unique. And they talk about that. I really did experience that. Even though we can have a sense of unity, we do have our own unique identity. So then I'm asking, okay, what's next? And in that what's next, I think one of the things that I did, I think also that we have an opportunity, is I was giving myself more love in the process, accepting the information, understanding the information. So as I'm thinking what's next, I'm having this appreciation all around me, a giant light appeared. This huge ball of light. And I'm looking at it, like, oh, that's interesting. That wasn't here before. And I started to realize in my consciousness that when I had my near-death experience, or the crash, I'd been, you might call it a low state of consciousness, depressed, unhappy, not knowing myself, not taking care of myself, my identity, giving it away. So therefore, when I died, I couldn't see the light. My consciousness wasn't high enough. But as I opened my mind to love and light and listening, it was there. It had always been there. I just couldn't see it. Now, I'm a point of light, so I don't have a body, I don't have eyes or anything like that. I was just a point of light, but I had a lot of consciousness. As I noticed and said, oh, now I can see it. It was as if I was in a tractor beam, pulled into this ball of light. I got closer and closer and closer. The awareness of love and knowledge continued to grow, and I realized it was me. That light was me. And as I merged with, and a lot of people who have had a near-death experience say this, that when they go into their near-death experience, that there's a ball of light and just millions and millions of sparkling lights, and just a sense of all the souls, each one having a consciousness, each one being bright and alert, and all is one and one is all, and everything's telepathic, and it is all simultaneous. It was very much that way. And again, it was a new revelation of joy. Wow, this is great! This is fantastic! Just enjoying this, no good, no bad, no right, no wrong, just more of a perfectness. but now surrounded by all more love and consciousness. So I was just saying, not that, again, earth and that, all that was just slowly again going away, disappearing. Then, well, what's next? And with that, that's when the life reviews began. And the first life review, I'll describe it in this way. It's like an amphitheater. I know many people have described that there's like amphitheater, and there's a presence on one side and a loving presence on the other side. Of course, you can feel all of the otherness in where I'm at simultaneously. And like a screen, but everything, again, there's no time. There's sequence, but no time. But everything's also happening simultaneously. Everything that I did, everything that I thought, all the people I've met, all the choices that I had done, and observing, just as if it was now. And there's all this love, but I'm looking at it. And then I call it going into the dark place, the contemplation chamber. And what that was, I was then instantly in another place, but all by myself. It wasn't like when I had died in the initial step, which you have this expansiveness. No, it was very much like you were in a holding tank or a chamber or contemplation. And I was there to look at, judge the different things that I had done. It felt like I'd been there for a long, long, long time. And then I was next back in front of the amphitheater. And then the next life review began. And in this life review, I was looking at my life again, but because my consciousness had been raised, and my consciousness about myself, and who I was, and my purpose, and my goals, and me, my soul, and with all, and this love. This life review was different. It was still me, and it was still from the moment that I was born to the time that the accident happened, but it was a lot better, because I was coming back with the consciousness of having made new choices. So that if I would have stood up for myself more, if I would have asked for more, if I would have followed some of my dreams and passions, which I recognized was yes, art, and yes, marketing, and also running, but animals and nature, and appreciating life and being with life and not being more contained in my days, but meeting other people, going out. There are a lot of choices I could have made. I thought, well, no, not today. Or, well, I'm not going to do that. Well, I can't do that. Or, I'm not good enough. Because I was raised in a family in which women were more work and, maybe if you're lucky, you could be a secretary. That was, if you did the absolute best you could rise to be a secretary. So the whole point is, in this review, I got it. I could have had a better life, but it was up to me. There was no judgment of you had a bad life or you didn't do it correctly or a hell or anything like that. It was very much me judging myself. And my awareness was, I wasted my life. I wasted it. I could have had this experience. Now, the accident still had happened, and I sent out in telepathy to all of this around me. I said, I have to go back. I have to go back. You have to send me back. I want to have that life. I want to create that. I want to do those things. Because we're new people in this scenario. You've seen those movies sometimes. One was called Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow, and other movies that are similar to that. That if you made this choice, then this would happen. Made that choice, then that would happen. You might say that's the analogy I want to use. And I was very aware that I could have made different choices, but I didn't. And it was my responsibility. It was my choices. It's what I had done with my ideas and my consciousness and the messages I had from my mother and from my father and from friends. And it was just, no, this cannot be true. This can't be true. You've got to send me back. And in this loving presences around me, they said, Jessica, you don't understand. You can't go back. You accepted. When the presence came in, or the angel in the hospital room, if you want to let go, it will be okay. That's when you accepted and crossed the threshold. You can't go back. You're here now. And besides, there's nothing to go back to. Your body's too damaged. And I then the next life review begins. Back in the holding tank. And here's the chamber, the dark place. I call it dark place because, again, I'm looking at all this information and you're learning more and how Earth was wonderful, was beautiful. I could make this choice. And it's even stronger, even more aware of things that I could have done with my life and who I am and all that I am, have been, ever would be, but how precious being alive was. How precious it was to have the sea and the air and the animals and different choices, and nature in every single way possible. Okay, war, these different things, that didn't matter. Being alive was so important. So now I'm back out with the amphitheater there, and this life review is completely different. But again, my consciousness is raising. My awareness is being raised. Now I see me and all my different characters. New characters are there. But if I had been that person with that consciousness, the accident would not have happened.
Sorry.
I would have met my husband. I would have done many different things I wanted to do in my life. I would have helped more people. I would have gotten out and spoken about life and fun and joy. It was like, wow, now I have to get back. I have to get back. And I'm telling you, all these presences and all these little lights out there and everybody out there, come on, I have to get back. And they're all saying, no, I'm sorry, you can't, you have to accept. You are here, this is your level. Your consciousness is still not high enough. And we're not high enough. This plane is not high enough. So therefore, we need to move you forward. And I can't say that it was this, but there was a sense that they were trying to move me forward. If you do believe in reincarnation, if that's something you would consider, it's like we need to move you forward. And I kept on saying, no, I'm not moving forward. I'm going back. No, sorry, you can't. So they sent me back to the contemplation chamber again. And I'm just saying, no. I'm just screaming this out into eternity. Like forever and ever and everness. And absolutely saying, you have to send me back. I have a purpose. I have something that I want to do. Life is too precious. Life is too fun. I have to do this. I don't want to be here. I want to be there. And I want to be me. I want to be my uniqueness. And with that absolute, total commitment, and I have to describe it as absolute, complete commitment, not even though I don't have a body, but just on your mind and your identity, not wavering. One iota, and I believe we have this ability in our life too. Here, everything changed. Suddenly, I was not in that plane anymore. I was not in that dimension anymore. Now everything was different. Now I'm still in the light, the ball of light, me with all of this around me. But now I'm in a dimension or a plane which is only light. Only light. It is not, it's like you move into the light or there's different planes around you. It was only eternal, as a beginning, no beginning, there is no beginning, there is no end. It is that fullness of eternity, very aware of it. I feel like now I'm a little speck in this eternity of light, which I do believe what you would call it, like gold, the most beautiful gold, like a sun, but there's no heat, and it's all perfection. And there was a very strong sense that it was the creation of all. And there was this telepathy of, yes, I created you. I am all. I have created all that is. And again, it's just pure love. So, and it was very unique too, because it said something that was like, I know everything you have ever done. I know everything that you are now. And I know everything that you ever will do. And you can do nothing that I will not love you. And I will always be here. And you do understand. Because you understand the preciousness of life, because you understand you and your beauty and your uniqueness, your individuality, because you did not give up, was very clear, because you did not give up. I, and only I can give your life back. Now you know, now you understand. I will send you back. And instantly, I was back in my body again. It wasn't like you're going back in or going out. So I've heard a lot of individuals who have had that experience of near death. And it's very common, but that was not my experience. Everything, in fact, the changes were instantaneously. And I have a tendency to believe that with ourselves here, as well as in my near-death experience, even each time you change your or update your consciousness, and the world around you begins to change too. It's like the right people show up at the right time. Instantly, something happens, something changes. Well, that's how I describe my near-death experience. There was no time, and everything was simultaneous, but there was sequence that I can relate to. So now, I'm back in my body. It was as if, lying in the hospital bed, and again it's late at night, that there was electricity that was running from my toes, through my knees, my arms, my fingers, to the top of my head. And my whole body was just lifted off the bed, simultaneously. As if there were shocks. And though there were no shocks that were being done to me at the time, but that is what it felt like. And the room filled with light. Now, there was nobody in the room at the time, but the room did fill with light. And then, of course, the nurses are rushing in and coming in and around me. It's interesting because the light was as if the light that I had experienced, and it was very loving all around me and safe. But at the exact same time, the pain, the excruciating pain returned. Oh, and my first thought was, I'm back, and I don't care about the pain. It's okay, I can endure the pain. I'm here for a reason. I'm going to keep my promise to myself. I am going to get out there and help animals. I am going to get this message out. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to change a lot of new things about my life, and I'm going to heal myself. They have said, the doctors, I had 5 different doctors. I had a neurosurgeon, I had an eye doctor, of course then I had the face doctor, a back doctor, and then for my feet. So there were 5 different doctors, each with a different prognosis, and also a goal to define and then to give their help or their ability and what they could do. Each one gave me a very low prognosis for being healed. I remember lying in the hospital room, I started crying when, I was saying, help me, because my mouth was wired shut. Help me. And all of these nurses are here, I just died, help me. What do I do? And of course they're looking and like, okay, well, that's interesting, and poking and doing these different things. And but the whole point of this experience, even though they didn't understand, I knew I would be healed. I absolutely, totally knew. My commitment that I mentioned before, that we have that in our life, with commitment for ourselves and our goals, I knew I would. I knew this force was with me. This incredible force, what I would call God. And it was completely, totally with me. Now, would be forever, and it always had been. But I hadn't called on it before. So when my mother came the next day, and I told her about my near-death experience, first time my mouth was wired shut, and I said, Mom, I'll say it this way, I said, I'm going to heal myself completely, and even though they say I'll never run or walk again, or maybe possibly walk, but being disfigured forever, I'm going to run from the bottom of Ocean Avenue up to San Carlos, which is 12 steep blocks, and I will do it in 6 months. I will heal myself. And I remember her saying, oh yes, dear, oh yes, oh no, that's a good goal. So, but that was my goal. And it's interesting, holding that absolute faith again. The healing started to begin. And one of the first steps of the healing was that inner faith in myself, and the inner faith of loving life. And so the nurses would say when they come in, you're different. And I could begin to just move my arm a little bit and just move my head a little bit, little by little by little by little. Interesting, I thought, was here I am, crushed, and they would put me in a wheelchair and wheel me around to the other critical patients and say, would you just sit and talk with these people? Would you just sit and be around them? Okay, sure, I can do that. And they said that after I would be around them, they would have a sense of doing better. And so that was a feedback loop that they were telling me. Well, I got out of the hospital a lot faster than expected. And there's an interesting story, so I'll bring it back to work and also career. Just since I was coming back sooner, and they said I needed to have a full-time nursing care and things like that, I didn't have a place to stay because at the time, being in the hospital and different things, circumstances happened. And so I called up the boss, and I said, they're discharging me tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, and I don't have a place to stay. I haven't had anything set up, because it was sudden. And I said, would you be willing that I could come back and stay with you? Please, I have no place to go. And he said yes. He said yes. And when I came back, but with this hope and inner light, inner faith, I'm not coming up with judgment on it, things in that job, in that career began to change. He was nicer, he was kinder, he was, I wouldn't say overly helpful, but he was there. And that was an instantaneous feedback for me, that God is there. I have a place to stay. And my healing began to continue at a rapid rate. So one of the things I'd like to move forward to is I often talk about the near-death experience, and then also the after effects. Many people have gone through a critical change or something that has been a massive challenge in their life. And one of the things I talk about is, of course, the after effects. You don't have to die to make change in your life or to have new awarenesses. So when I talk about these after effects, it's not only for me and what I experienced, but any of you that have been going through a challenge, that these are strategies, tools, opportunities, way of thinking that anybody can use. And that's why I think it's so important to get the message out. And the first is the power of prayer. I believe that there are 3 different types of power of prayer that we have available to us every minute of the day, even when you're asleep or you're awake. And that is intercessory prayer, group prayer, and personal prayer. I'll give you an example of each. Maybe you have experienced this also, or then you would also call upon these different types of prayer at any time you would wish. When I'm now out of the hospital and I'm healing, one of the ways that I did it was I would just focus on that power of light in my mind or being around there, and I would just think, no, this is how I also in the hospital, it was like if I could just blink my eye, I could just blink my eye. The next morning, I would be able to blink my eye. I lifted my hand, I could just feel the tip of my eyelashes. I could just feel that. The next morning, I could feel my eyelashes. If I could just feel the tip of my nose, next morning, I could do that. If I could just move my mouth, just move it. Next morning, I could move my mouth. These are tiny, tiny, tiny little prayers. Teeny tiny little prayers. Instead of saying, heal myself, let me walk, that type of things. They were tiny, but they were all completely sincere. And because the damage was so bad, and it was so grotesque, and all the lacerations and scars that were there, just having one of these little tiny gifts was a gift from heaven. It was a gift to be able to move my head, be able to move over, and then be able to sit up. And of course, I'm in a body brace from my neck to my waist. They said that after they surgery put back together again, they couldn't do anything with the back, and I would be in it for 6 months, and then consider the different surgeries. Well, I'm going to jump now to intercessory prayer. In the hospital, when the pain was so excruciating, it was, you get the medication. They drop in the medication and the morphine, things like that. But after a while, you've had so much, you can't have any more. You have to wait. Otherwise, you could kill a person. So when that began to wear off, and the pain was so bad, I would just endure it and endure it. And sometimes I would call my mother up and I would say, please, please, just talk to me. Please talk to me. Get me through the pain until maybe 4 hours or 5 hours until you could get that next little drop of relief. One night, I remember it was at 11 o'clock. And I would be calling her usually around 1, 2, 3, 4. That was the timeline that you had to be on pause for any type of medication. I felt this relief. Oh, the pain's not as bad. I think I can fall asleep. Oh, wow. My body's relaxing. Oh, I think this is, wow. Oh, and I fell asleep. And I woke up about 7 o'clock in the next morning. The pain wasn't that bad. I expected it to come back. Now I was getting, the medication, but even with that, now it was even less pain. I found out a few days later that a dear friend, had gone to the Carmelite mission, the nuns, which are cloistered, and they do prayer, and they had to put in a request for a vigil for Jessica Haynes, starting at 11 o'clock that day for 24 hours. And they did. They started praying for 24 hours. And that is the exact moment when the pain began to lessen. And it didn't come back ever to that particular degree. That's intercessory prayer. You don't know someone's praying for you. You don't know that you have a group of individuals that really want your absolute best, that are into the praying of the light, through the light, with the force of God for you because you count. And there are a lot of people that are praying for us that we don't know about. So we can accept this positive prayer. And instead of saying, I'm alone, and oh my gosh, what do I do? And I'm doing my visualizations, I'm doing all my intentions, I'm writing everything down, I'm telling people about it. There still is that force working for us. And when you allow yourself to tap into it and to believe in it, then it comes to you and through you. I had no idea about this, but it was working in my life. So the next type of prayer that I talk about is group prayer. And I did have a lot of individuals that were praying for Jessica and wanting the best for her. And how could such a horrific thing happen to such a nice person who really was doing her absolute best? And in those different prayers, sending cards, wishing well, and then knowing that these people were with me and pulling that love or that appreciation and that belief in myself and accepting it and using it and saying thank you and yes, and keeping that commitment. I'm going to heal myself. And then the other point of prayer is personal prayer. And that was my personal prayer to myself, who I am, what I want to achieve, what is most important to me, to my identity. I often call this, you want to have an identity, not a peer identity, not a mom identity, not a boss identity, not a job identity, not another other their identity or them identity, but an identity. And so in my prayers, it was for me, of me, with me, my goals, my dreams. I call it being self-centered. Not self-centered, but self-centered. And all my prayers were for that goal of me having my best life. Hey God, you created me. Now get down here and help me. I'm asking for your help. And I often believe there are two different types of prayer with personal prayer. And one is that in which you put out a goal, and through belief, and through, you call it the power of God or light or the force, and you set a timeline. So I had set a timeline. I will run in 6 months from the bottom of Ocean Avenue to San Carlos without stopping, fully healed, and that was a timeline. So God worked with me on this. My body helped me to believe in myself. Let me watch the synchronicities that are happening, that I can add to my life, that I can say, yes, these things are happening, and that I am healing. And of course, my boss became nicer, and I had said to him, okay, I want to have a better job. I don't want to do these things. I want a raise. I want a car. He said, yes. Now, how did that happen? He never would. He didn't change. He was still the same person he was with everybody else, but not with me. He was being different. I think it was through the power of my prayer and being myself and asking for more and believing in myself more and letting synchronicities happen. So I call that's one of the types of prayer. And the other, of course, is being open-ended. Okay, God, I really want this to happen. I don't know how. I'm not sure how it's going to happen, but I really am open-minded to the different possibilities. Well, maybe things start going right. Okay, I'm not really sure if that's the direction I want to go. However, letting synchronicity take you down a path. It doesn't always have to be a straight line. Right, left, this way, that way. But you still get to the goal and being open-minded. I really believe, so both can be working with you simultaneously. And so sometimes when we set a goal, we can find out, whoops, that's not what I wanted. But if we're simultaneously allowing ourselves to go maybe right or left, like when my dear friend says, okay, I should be going right, but that didn't work. Well, if you go left, 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 you're going right. So you're going to get where you want to go. Just doing a lot of lefts to get to your right. And so it's kind of a fun way to look at it. Okay, I'm keeping going left here. I want to go that direction. But then the door opens, the people show up, being here. being here is a wonderful opportunity, talking with you and how the events have unfolded to be here tonight. And we're sharing that with Lewis, of how these events have fallen into place and how joyous I am to have these opportunities. I never knew that this is one of the directions was going to happen. So in a lot of rights I wanted to take, I've done a lot of less than being able to speak across the country in this particular goal. So the next step I'd like to chat about is talk about the after effects, that we all have choices that we can use, that we can take advantage of. And that is, a lot of times after a crisis, a severe change in your life, a severe disappointment, something which takes you totally by surprise, and the rug is pulled out from underneath your feet. We often can go into ourselves with the power of prayer, but then also we can learn that we can become more intuitive for ourselves. We can allow that. Instead of saying, I'm alone, I don't know how, it's not possible, you can tap into your intuition. A lot of times people say, it's darkest before the dawn, and sometimes when it's darkest before the dawn, because you are listening to yourself, you are going into your intuition, you're doing affirmations with a commitment and with a belief. And so a lot of people who have endured that experience come back more psychic, more intuitive, that they follow through on their intuition, that they write down their affirmations, that they share this hope and this dream rather than keeping it to themselves. And that did happen to me. As I was healing myself and then getting back into the world and talking with people, actually getting back to working again in art and also in marketing, but coming from a whole new vantage point. Jessica was self-centered and all the choices. Instead of working 10 hours a day, 14 hours a day, let's see, I think 5 would be good today. And that's the way it's going to be, Mr. Boss, because I got everything done that you wanted. Okay, Jessica. So in that part of becoming intuitive and choosing myself and my goals first, it got stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. I'd be around a person, it'd be as if a TV camera just appeared. And I could see things and see things about people, or a ticker tape would go across, and I would ask the person I was with, did you have this happen to you, or is this going on in your life? And it would be, yes, that is, and I could see choices that they could make, because the picture's not always set. Sometimes we can go into a line of choices, and then you can create a fate line or a fate outcome, but that's because of the choices we're choosing. But choices that could happen, and they could be more in control of their life. And those events would occur. Those different situations would occur. Here's one of the fun stories that people always like and the audiences enjoy. So here I am now back, and I have my boyfriend, and so I'm becoming more and more intuitive. He likes to go out in the evenings, go with the guys and have his free time and enjoy. And I thought, great, now I'll get some more free time for myself, things I want to do and enjoy. Well, one evening, I'm just pausing and thinking, thought, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go peeking on my boyfriend, what he's doing tonight. Here's my psychic ability there. Oh, okay, what's going on? And so I started cueing in on him, and I thought, no, he's not with the guys. No, he's not at a restaurant. No, he's not with other people. No, he's not at a business meeting. And I just, opened my mind up, and I put the thought out, well, could he be with a girl, a woman? And poof, the picture showed up. Oh, I mean, it's as clear as could be. I could see the house. I could send my mind in like remote viewing and walk around the house, and it was a stone chimney. It had stone on the outside too. It was kind of mansion-like, and they were in the kitchen and were having red wine. They had a nice dinner. She was tall like I was, and she had dark hair, fair skin. And I'm watching, and then they're going into the bedroom. Oh, and I can see there's floral just all over the walls, and she's got a floral bed, and I can see the rug. Whoa, intimacy is happening. So, oh, he's been caught, because my mind opened up to the possibilities, like, what's the truth? What is the truth? And I can take the truth. So I decided, okay, if that's what you were doing, I got a piece of paper and put it in the typewriter, and I said, okay, you left the house at this time. I saw you at another woman's house, and you had red wine, and here's what you ate, and this is what her house looks like, and this is what her bedroom looks like. You had intimacy. Then at this time you got up and you washed your hands. Then you got in the car, and you'll be home at 11:30.
Whoa.
And I put it on the outside of the door. He gets home and he opens up the door and he has this piece of paper in his hand and he goes, "What's this?" And I said, "Everything you did. You know, I told you I was getting more psychic. I know what you can do now. You know." And he said, "You're a witch! You're a witch!"
Wow.
Well, after that, he would try to be a little more cautious, but I could intuitively see the different things that he was doing. And that's one of the things, too, as our intuition grows and we use our intuition, we allow to do that in our choices, things change in our life. But they can change, instead of negative, they can change positively. And of course, the relationship did begin to fall apart. I wanted more. I wanted someone who was committed. I wanted someone who really loved me. I wanted someone who was honest and truthful. I deserved this. Now, before my near-death experience, I let other people tell me what to do. If I had a boyfriend, I could be a doormat at times, completely forgiving again and again, even when I deserved more. And now, again, I was being self-centered. And, okay, I don't need you. The next person's going to show up. The next man in my life I really want. Of course, you write it down in your intention, and I want all these different qualities. That was open-ended for me. I don't know when he's going to show up, but I know he will. And these are the qualities that I want to have. A year and a half later, I had an introduction to a gentleman who was everything on my list. And we met each other on a date, and that was it. We never dated anybody else again. I call it kismet, and I've been married to him for 25 years. And he is the love of my life. If I had not used my intuition or allowed for change, or allow my life to go into different directions and accept, again, right, left, 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 I probably would not have met this wonderful man. So I also noticed that a lot of people have near-death experience. Their relationships fall away, their friends change, circumstances in their life completely go in different directions, and they say, it's okay. It's okay to go through that, because I am more aware of my life, and I want to improve my life, and these people or these different situations have to go away in order to let the love of my life. If I had not used my intuition or allowed for change, or allow my life to go into different directions and accept, again, right, left, 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 I probably would not have met this wonderful man. So I also noticed that a lot of people have near-death experience. Their relationships fall away, their friends change, circumstances in their life completely go in different directions, and they say, it's okay. It's okay to go through that, because I am more aware of my life, and I want to improve my life, and these people or these different situations have to go away in order to let more come in. It's very, very common for not only with people with near-death experiences, but when you've gone through something which has been a critical event in your life, you say, okay, I'm going to choose more. So I highly invite you to not only enjoy your intuition and your affirmations in these open-ended ways, but also to allow for change and saying, not what's wrong with this, but what could be right with this for me, my life, my passions, my dreams. And the next point I wanted to share as an after effect, we all have choices to have, and that is purpose. I know it's very much with people who have had a near-death experience, or something, again, has been a critical life experience. They talk about purpose, having a sense of purpose, new purpose. When I was in my life before the near-death experience, I would say that I was spiritual, kind of. Never went to church, except for when I was a child and you have to go to church. Not doing a lot of prayers or anything like that. And kind of. Well, it's kind of over there in my life. It's kind of, maybe, a little bit. But after the near-death experience, there was an overwhelming sense of purpose. Overwhelming. That I'm here for a reason, and I want to use my purpose, and I want to believe in my purpose, and I want to put that into action. And I want to take action for myself, but also for others. And then in that purpose, opportunities continued to open for me. And all of us has an opportunity to say, what is my purpose? What are my goals? What are my dreams? And to believe in them. And the more we are open to purpose on all different types of levels, whether it's your relationship, or it's job, or it's career, or it's exercising, or get up on stage, which I used to be so frightened to get up on stage, just because I was a very shy child. And perhaps purpose brings out something that it's fun, it's enjoyable, and you allow things that might scare you, or frighten you, or intimidate you to become fun, because it is purposeful. So that is something I think it's interesting that near-death experiencers, I would say 99.99, talk about it. And that they say that they heard it when they were in their near-death experience, or when they got back, saying you have a purpose for your child, or for your mother, or for a situation which you can give back to this planet. That they overwhelmingly say, I knew it was correct, and I can tap into this every single day. And I can share it with others without fear, or thinking that they are thinking I'm self-centered. And to be open for opportunities. So that's one of the things I want to say in conclusion. That is the presentation of my near-death experience, the opportunities that you can have as far as here. But again, the first step is that after a near-death experience or a crisis, you have all these different choices. First, the power of purpose, change. Change can come into your life, intuition, and affirmations, as well as the power of prayer. And all these steps, again, strategies, tools within you are available. So I want to thank you, and if you have any questions afterwards, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
I pushed it back because
And lastly, the deepest learning, these are almost opposite learnings, okay? The biggest learning from the first one was we are all one. Talk about a diversity learning, we are all one. Come from the same source, and then spirit, soul, call it what you will, lands in the only DNA in the history of life on Earth, and therein lies all of our human diversity. And they're both true at the same moment. We are one. We are one. We are one. And we're uniquely different. And it makes it a lot easier and a lot more fun to say, tell me about your weird diversity, and I'll tell you about mine. And you tell me about yours. And, wow, what can I learn from you? What's it like to be in that body? What's it like? So I'm more myself in this yuppie body than I ever was before. And I value everyone else being more themselves. But the pure white light experience and the gift of oneness, true oneness and light in every minute of my life and every moment of my day. What else is there to learn? Well, there was something else I had to learn. And that is, I guess, having grown up the way I grew up, that even with all that white light, as if, I'm going to exaggerate now, but as if I was living out of the 8th chakra with pure white light coming through into me all the time, it's almost as if I was going, oh, wow, living in spirit is great. And just sort of not fully integrating mind and body and spirit. Okay, so this tree, as a Native American woman said to me, whoa, you needed to be grounded. That's what she said when she heard the accent. She didn't go, poor you, she went, whoa, you needed to be grounded. So I got grounded. And I got so grounded that the last thing is the deepest learning was, I got so grounded that I actually couldn't get out. This coma, this brain injury was so serious that I couldn't read, write, walk, or talk. I didn't know, I've said this, but feel it more deeply. I didn't know the names of my children, my wives, my mother, my kids, and my current wife, my parents, my siblings, who I was. And I got the amazing gift for which I felt so grateful every minute of every day of rebuilding from scratch. And I had nothing to do with it. I got to experience the regaining of data in the library that's all back in the library, and I had no access to from the damage of all the synapses. So what I got to learn was what I call the center of the tornado, which is why I said this at dinner, where even a feather doesn't fly. Right? We all know from science that whether it's hurricane or tornado that does that, not a feather doesn't even move at the very center of these 150-mile-an-hour winds. Right? That's how hard I needed to be hit, or that's how well I needed to be grounded to discover that spot. Because there was nothing else I could do outside of that spot. Nothing. Why did I need to do that? Because the way I was raised and the skills in the body and the mind that I was given with DNA and education was, no, it wasn't as much that, thank you. There was some of that. There was definitely some righteousness. Absolutely. But I actually had a personality and the skills out here where everything out on the surface worked so well in my own culture that I didn't need to go to the core. That's how hard I needed to get hit, to get knocked into the center of the tornado and shut up and say nothing and know nothing. Just be. And I wasn't allowed, I wasn't enabled, I wasn't able to gain the recovery they were doing, except to the extent I was able to keep the center. Talk about self-centered. Boy, do I get it. That's not ego and personality. I'm self-centered. That was, whew, I am. I got it. And do I slip? Yeah, I'm human. But all it takes for me to slip is my wife or my child or Jessica or one of you to say, Louis, get back. And I go, thank you. But most of the time I'm in the center and come from the center, and as I regained multitasking skills, I started to learn, wow, this is mine, these are my gifts, these are my weaknesses, this is my stuff, but this is mine, this isn't yours. I'm at the center and this is all mine. You're in your center. Oh, I can feel, hear, see, sense. This is all yours. It's not mine. I'm not afraid of it, and I'm not worried as long as it's safe. But I feel the difference between you and me, and your stuff and my stuff. And I don't let them get mingled. And you can have yours in front of me, and I can have mine with you. Wow! It's great. It's safe and it's free. So that's what I got. Pure white light and lived in the 8th chakra, and then I got grounded, and now I'm here. And mostly integrated with mind, body, and spirit. There's my short version. Thanks for listening. So, you now have questions for either of us about anything, because we have no boundaries, either of us. Go.
This question is for Jessica. I wanted to know, how long was your physical death? And did you have awareness of the length of time that you spent on the other side?
That's a very interesting question, because since there is no time in that near-death experience, so I'll start with that first, being in that near-death experience. As I mentioned, there was a sequence, but in each sequence there was no time. So I would say that when I was in the holding tank, or that contemplation period, after each life review, coming back and feeling about all of the contemplation, it felt like I was there, to put it in time, about 2,500 years. That's what it felt like, that I had been gone. But it had only been for a few minutes. It wasn't long at all. But it felt like I had been gone for a very, very, very long time. So again, time and matter, how that is. And so that's basically, of course, I also wanted to share with what you said, we do have so many things in common. After the words, watch this, when the driver put his foot to the pedal, I have absolutely no memory. I have no memory of it speeding, except I could feel, I remember feeling being pushed back into the seat with the acceleration. But no memory of the crash, no memory of the car, no memory of the ambulance coming, no memory of being put in the ambulance, none. And I have a tendency to believe that the mind protects,
Yeah.
that you're not supposed to know that. You're supposed to, it would be so horrendous that the brain can't handle it, the fear, the horribleness, the pain. And then, as I mentioned also, I remember just a few minutes of being in the ambulance, and then there's no memory. And then in the hospital with the light, and then you're in the emergency room, and that just lasts a few minutes. So I think in that sense too, of time and how time exists, there was no time there either. Where was I? I have no memory. I don't know if I was floating around, I don't know if it was over there, I just know that then I would come to. And I don't believe I was in a coma, but they did say I was in critical care, critical care. And I was alive, but with all the
Great
other things
question,
that go
though.
with it.
I don't remember either how much time in the first one, in the white light, except I know that I walked out of the total automobile into the ambulance when it arrived. So therefore, it couldn't have been very much time that I was in the light with conversation with God, right? I don't know. But I also love scientists trying to figure out what's right or wrong about my experience. Because, I mean, if memory is only in the brain, and the brain was in the body, and the body was in the total automobile, how can I have perfect memory since March 11, 77 of every word in my conversation with God and the pure white light and all the other consciousness I got? Where did that come from? Who knows? And why do I have no memory in the other one? Maybe because of what you said. I don't know. But I don't need to know, because I sure know what's true.
Sounds like a blessing.
I
Yeah.
like this, one point, one of my dear friends, he is also one of the most famous psychics in the country and is a speaker all over the country and also the world. And he talks about God. And God stands for get over definition. You might have heard that before. I always laugh at that one. Okay, let's do some God today. And get over this definition, get over that definition, to open your mind to different things. And some people, when somebody asks you the judgment, what's the one right way? I often say, well, any way you want. Which direction you want to go. Which choices do you want to have? It was very, very clear in my near-death experience that we have choice. We have choice here. We have choice to what we want to do. Choice how we see ourselves, choice if we want to be with somebody else, choice if we don't want to be with somebody else, and it's okay. When in my near-death experience, I could hear and be one with everything.
Everything.
In telepathic,
Telepathically.
telepathically and telepathic, every light, every part of that light that I joined, I knew everything that they were thinking, knew everything I was thinking. It was all one thought. Even though you had uniqueness in that state, you knew everything simultaneously. Here, we can have judgment. People can't know what we're thinking. It's a choice. It's a wonderful, wonderful gift not to be able to know what everybody is thinking or feeling of being one. That's one of the neat things about being human. You can have privacy of thoughts. You can have privacy of feelings. You can have privacy of what you want to do. Now, you can meet some people that are intuitive and ask and say, hey, can you help me? And say, oh yeah, and they have that particular gift. Now, this is all interesting too. I'm going to change from what I was just saying. I've noticed a lot of people that are highly psychic, it's often generational. Their mother and their grandmother and their great-grandmother. So is that passed on by DNA? Is that something that, okay, I'm going to choose that body to help people, and generationally it's easier for the DNA or something like that? I don't know, but it's an interesting fact.
And
But
for
then
those
some
of-
people, have a crisis or have some situation like we do, and then the brain gets triggered and becomes psychic. I've noticed a lot of people who have had head injuries, when they come back, they can see better. They can't hear, now they can hear.
Yeah.
And somehow the brain gets changed, and that they can know different things. I've met a lot of people who are motorcycle accidents or individuals who have had car accidents. So their brain is affected severely. And then all these challenges that they've had, again, they wake up and, oh, I've got 20/20 vision. I don't need glasses anymore. And how can you describe that? It is amazing how the body works, and also some of our missions that we're here to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's kind of an interesting thought, but here, I'll give it back to you.
Well,
for-
or more
oh,
questions.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
Sure.
How
Go.
how did you learn how to speak again, and how did you gain all that memory back that you lost?
Well, I don't know. I only know,
First about memory, I do know, in the way we use the word know, as opposed to my experiences, I do know that all of the data from everything we've ever learned is in the library, in the computer. The only question is, do you have the synapses that attach to each other so that it can be found? And when there's damage, that's what's happened, the synapses are broken. So, in other words, I did not need to regain as if from scratch in infancy the way we once had to learn something from the beginning. I had to regain it through the synapses so they're going through different synapses. And I even had experiences, like once the insurance used to test me to make sure I deserved the disability insurance I was on. I was still brain injured, and so they do tests, and every time they can prove that I still can't do what I used to be able to do before my accident, okay? But I remember once sitting with this doctor, and he did this test, and then an hour later said, I want to do that one again that we did back in the beginning. And the first time he did, I totally failed, couldn't do it. And I could tell, I'm far enough back so I could tell that I can't yet do what some of the things I used to do. Because I was once, let's say, 99th percentile, and 90% means I have a lot of retardation I'm aware of. It's my own judgment, my own experience. But in this experience, I felt it work the second time he tried it. And I went, whoa, what was that? I actually felt chemically or physiologically in my brain something. And the doctor went, wow, that is amazing. You know what you just did? Since the left frontal lobe is so damaged, and since males work mostly out of their left side, etc., you're on your own, your synapses searched for and found paths crossing over into the right side of your brain like women do, you know? And I found the solution to something that I never would have found in my linear male way. It was fantastic. I know. So that's one of the answers, is it just took practice. One of the answers is the data's there. The other is there's practice, there's chemistry, there's physiology. And the rest I don't know. It's all guessing. So, yes.
Did you always have this amazing peaceful and calm in your voice?
No. Not as much. I mean, we are always in the body we've always been in the DNA and the history and some of it. So I've always been a pretty sensitive, nice guy as a kid who said, no, 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 don't, she didn't mean that. Why are you acting that way, you know? Yeah, so compared to maybe others, sometimes yes. And once this happened, whew, it just opens and flows much more because I'm just able to be whatever I am feeling at the moment. Energy and spirit just flows much more easily. And therefore, I get a big kick out of noticing everyone else's. So when I meet another one's just flowing, it's like, whoa! yeah. And saying, hey, look at this smile, look at the energy and spirit. It's like, God, see, it takes one to know one. Yeah. Who else? You want to do it? You want to do it? It's like, it's just free. It's free and endless. As is light and love. It's all love. Thanks for asking me. Thanks for seeing. You know that movie we just saw? What's it called? I See You. What was someone said the movie? Avatar? Yeah, the best scene of the whole thing was, I see you. That's what we all need to do. And look at the pleasure we get when we do that. Look at, every time I try to speak, I try to make eye contact. I see you. Look how good it feels to feel seen, way past ego and personality. Thank you. Next. Yes.
Jessica, when you had your near-death experience and you were told that you could not go back, were you aware of what your other choices were? What the other possibilities were if you did not go back?
Well, as I mentioned, there was a very strong sense that we have to move you forward and that your frequency isn't high enough to get back and you're in this plane. Since I mentioned, I think we have to move you forward was meaning they were getting ready for me to come back again because I so wanted to get back to Earth. I so wanted to do that again. I imagined that they were trying to get me back into a new body. But I was saying, no, I'm not doing that. No, no, no. And each time I would say no, I was raising my consciousness again about love, believing in myself, my purpose, how fantastic Earth was. And that now being able to see my life reviews, Earth, even though it felt like an illusion, was now a part of me simultaneously. That and being here, simultaneously, I was appreciating and understanding. And so, therefore, I don't know where I was going to go, so that never happened. But I have a tendency, listening to enough people who have had near-death experiences and talk with individuals, that might have been it. So, no, I don't think I want to come back with a baby. No, no, I'm not going to do that.
Not yet.
No.
Next time, yes.
Next time, no. And that's what I often say, that really just remembering that being alive, and I just love your message, Louis. In fact, when I first met you, the moment we walked into the restaurant at the exact same time, with synchronicity there, and I went, whoa, I mean, this was so much fun. But here's the fun story about synchronicity that you might enjoy in timing, how timing all works. I was chatting with my sister on the telephone, and she had come to one of your meetings here before
a year ago.
A year ago.
wow.
I saw Ellie and,
Ellie and
and
me,
you,
yeah.
and I called Jess and said, you need to get involved with this group.
Yeah.
And so then she ended up
Thank
speaking
you.
at the International, and she calls up and she's talking about Ellie and Lewis. And I said, yeah, they're the people a year ago that I told you should meet.
And it had said, I mentioned it, my intuition said, no, timing's not right. No, I'm not
Then.
supposed to meet him.
Back then, yeah.
Back then, when Linda told me about this IONS group, the voice said yes for IONS, but not at this particular situation.
Right.
And actually how it jump shifted me, it jumped me straight to being accepted in the Denver International Conference in the ballroom as a keynote speaker. So going from not having any presentation IONS straight to the top, it gave me the confidence, it gave me the connections, it gave me an opportunity to figure out what did I want to say, and having been chosen to talk about near-death experience and the after effects, that's what they asked me to speak on, I would be prepared. If I would have come here at the time, I don't think I would have been prepared or known what to do, and maybe even the connection yet.
Isn't that
I haven't met all those people yet.
I also
And-
was the keynote speaker at IONS the year before in San Diego, and I had never yet done these little
Exactly. So I think, opening up the timing and how timing works, I thought, wow. Organized.
So Jessica kept saying to me, she goes, well, so-and-so introduced me to you and to Ellie. And I go, no. I know about them from, I said, I can remember what they talked about a year ago,
So I think
Oh,
that's
thank
the
you.
thing about
I can
that time. I thought it was a
remember,
fun, kind of fun
what
story.
you talked about,
Wow.
it was
Okay.
impactful.
Nick, somewhere? Okay.
I was just saying, like, in a lot of the Eastern philosophies, the whole message there is to die to the past and be present in the moment. And that's why when you go to Spirit Rock or, the Zen Center, they seem to be smiling all the time. You're like, why are you smiling? We're having 5 wars right now. What's going on? But I'm wondering, were you guys always this happy? Or am I just imagining that you're this happy? Or is
Well,
this the
I think I was
near-death
born.
experience?
She's always
and we can-
so happy.
Yeah, when I was born as a little child, I was a very happy little child in
Used
my
to
own
say,
world.
I don't have problems.
I used to always say that. I don't have problems.
Just my sister does.
Everybody else in the family has problems, I have problems.
Well, I do
I mean, I
remember-
don't have problems, everybody else does.
That's
what
what I
used to
was.
say.
I remember I was kind of my own little world, and I really liked, just playing in the sand. We grew up in Hawaii for my younger youth, and I remember my favorite thing when we go to the beach was just sit there and pour sand over my hand because it felt so good. Everybody was running around and doing that and doing games and playing chase, and I was like, oh, it feels so good. Then I got my own little world, or when we would be at school, and of course in Montevideo School in Hawaii, and all these kids would be playing, I'd be in the sandbox, having fun in my own little world. And also I do
Everybody's
remember-
out of the waiting pool.
Everybody's at the waiting pool.
Everybody's gone, and Jessica went in the waiting pool.
After everyone's gone and splashing and talking, so I was a happy child, a little bit of my own world. This is a fun story too. I share that here we were in, I think it was third grade, and there's a test, so they pass out the test, and I understand because my mother tells me this later. I filled out my name and I turned the test paper in, and then my mother gets called in and says, well, you have a very delightful child, and she's supposed to do this test, but she's much more interested looking outside the window and looking at the grass and the birds. She put her name, but she didn't fill anything out. Well, why? I don't know. This is more important. So I was kind of independent in my world, and I don't know, a school thing. I'm not really sure. But I described me as very happy and doing my own little thing. Of course, then after a while, you learn you have to fit in. If you don't fit in, then there are consequences. And so that's so yes. But I did go to the experience of then trying to please people and be right and get straight A's, so that I would be liked, so I would be better, so I would fit in, so I would have a career, so that I could make something of myself, so that I could be a secretary, so that I could get on my own. And then I started to lose my identity, very much so. I stopped being myself. And I do remember I would smile when I was at the gallery and helping people and building it, making it wealthier and wealthier and more famous. I'd smile, but I remember I felt like there was a hole in my soul. Almost like the wind would go through. And that time, no, I was not happy. I was not happy, but I couldn't understand fully why. Because I was given a lot of mixed messages as a child. And so therefore, moving from childhood into young adulthood, then into being on my own, there were a lot of challenges.
Maybe you're not that happy, but just you've always liked having fun.
Yes,
Always-
that is true. I would find ways to have fun. Of course, working in the gallery, I would have fun doing that. But I put my identity 7 days a week, helping
That's a
other
lot.
people, 10, 14 hours a day, working, trying to be happier. So yes, I've always been happy, but there was a period before the accident. And it might have been a wake-up call. It could have been a wake-up. Watch this. It could have been a wake-up call that we were going to help you get centered and get into that point we're saying just
More authentic happiness.
Yes, more
instead of
authentic
some
happiness.
superficial happiness.
Yeah, instead of being, out awareness, in awareness.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I noticed both of your incidents that involved trees. So
Isn't that
maybe-
interesting?
And cars. Oh, I see, your car hit the tree.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we were sitting at lunch and saying we do have a lot of synchronicities.
Wow.
That is very
She hit the
fascinating.
tree, the tree hit me. Yes?
I'm very much into animals, and I'm an animal intuitive, and I just wondered, because I know you have lots of horses and you alluded to animal work, I just wondered, is there a difference in how you perceived animals in your life and in this spiritual world before your accidents and after?
Well, I always loved animals as a child, and I remember when my parents would say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Because a lot is always like, "I don't know." anything I want, I don't know, you're like, oh, red car, red truck, do this, do that, I don't know. But I did say, I would like to have a wildlife refuge. Even as a child, I would think, I'm gonna save all the giraffes and all the deers and all the lions, and I'm gonna have this big refuge. And it was a real strong passion. Even as a little child, I wanted to do that, even before that consciousness, that eco-conscious. In fact, eco didn't even exist. Green, that terminology didn't even exist. It was just, oh, there's all kinds of animals. There was no talk about extinction or anything about global warming. So yes, I did have an awareness of that. And I always wanted to do something in that direction, but I didn't know how. I always thought, well, you have to be a success, and then you can do your dream. That's why I was working so hard on being a success and getting these things. And then when I got that step, then I get that next step. I thought it was interesting at one of my other talks, and it was, there's a concept that we're always in the middle. So you achieve a goal, and you think, well, when I get that, or then when I get that, well, then when I get that. When we get that, now we're back in the middle again. That happened. That was past, but now this future that is open-ended. So I didn't understand that. I was living very much always over here when I get this. So now with animals coming back, that was one of my passions. But I also had this vision, and it was very much had the vision when I was in my near-death experience, that I had to help people, like an arch, like an arch or like a church of art, that if I helped the people, then I could help the awareness about the animals. And a lot of people would come to me and they would say, I don't know what I'm here for, or what I'm supposed to do. And it was interesting, people that were supposed to be around animals and help animals or save animals or create wildlife refuges, or they would come to me, I could see that was their goal, and I was drawing all these people to them and giving them permission. So somehow they were finding me through word of mouth, or they'd hear my voice on the radio, and I was attracting these people to help them put on their mission. Wow. I really do believe a lot of people are supposed to find us. I did everything through word of mouth. It was interesting too that I was having a challenge on different goals that I want to. A lot of times a person would call me up and they'd ask the question that I was trying to solve. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Even though I done a lot of marketing and also helping individuals and networking, and then the answer would come and I think, all right, thanks God, I'm going to put that into action. That's really good. And then I'm going to overcome another hurdle or a particular goal. So within animals, I'm moving more in that direction. I created a website, and it's called Life with Jessica, lifewithjessica.com. And it's one of my new passions. It's only been up for about 4 or 5 months. We already have 43 countries following us, including Russia, China, Malaysia, Brazil. I mean, just all these wonderful countries. Of course, United Kingdom, United States, Mexico, Canada. But the whole point is that there's a part on it that I'm adding now. I have many different things that are on the website. It's going to be called A Place for Pause. PAWS/PAUSE. A place for pause. And then I'm going to put, it stands for People, Animals, and Wonderful Stories. That's how I'm pulling that in. So that's a dream that I'm moving forward. There's Garland Park on it. It's all about nature and hiking and enjoying nature. So I am putting into implementation my goals. But in my near-death experience, then coming back in 1983, the internet didn't exist. Networking didn't exist in social media. People that were not interested necessarily in that particular direction. So sometimes I talk about we're born before our mission has been invented. So let's say I have this mission that's out of my heart and the mission I want to do. I'm a little kid. Well, as far as philanthropy or Bill Gates or people able to give money away in mass doses, that consciousness really wasn't. And it wasn't much in stratosphere. You're on top, you're middle, and you're down here. A few people would jump the different boundaries, but so the consciousness I've looked at, a lot of us are born here, and what we're going to do for our mission, it hasn't been invented yet. So we learn our experiences, and we learn our goals, and our maturity, and our passion. So then we can step into it, and then be here because we're ready.
That's great.
So I think a lot of times,
And continually
and
so.
continually move forward.
That new, the new phase, it's like, what's happening next, and what do you need to plan? My attitude is now, I don't know,
Yeah.
but let's go.
I say that too. I do definitely say that. Well, let's put my big toe in here, put
Find
my
out
big toe
tomorrow.
here. And so with lifewithjessica.com, I'm just bringing all these different aspects. I call it Disneyland of life. So you can go in this part of the website, this part, and it's all about fun, joy, and the code that I have, as far as the core value, the core message is positively changing and improving people's lives. Everything is balanced around that. I'm getting more and more guest contributors that are saying, I want to be on your website, I want to be on your website. And these are top leaders around the country. Some of them are psychics, some of them are entrepreneurs, some of them are individuals that are about animals. The top supermodel fitness, she just joined now, and the top supermodel, the most photographed guy in fitness, he's joined.
Wow.
So, they're like, hey, I want to be a part of this. It's fun, it's delightful,
That's
and
great.
it's all about giving. It's all about
That's
giving.
great.
And my passion is growing and growing and growing in this direction. And I just had this one thought, and it started with Garland Park, 'cause I like to hike in Garland Park, and you have to be dead in order to have a bench. And I've been hiking it for so long, and I started the website with the vision that I wanted to get people out.